Throughout history, the most effective soldiers weren't the loud leaders or the team players. They were the quiet ones, the lone wolves, the ones who operated alone in enemy territory while everyone else needed a squad. They were the snipers who waited days in complete silence for one shot, the special forces operators who completed missions solo behind enemy lines, the intelligence agents who worked in shadows without recognition. They were Sigma males, and military history proves they're the most dangerous soldiers on the battlefield. Today we're breaking down the 5 reasons Sigma males make the best soldiers in war, what historical examples prove this, and why modern militaries are specifically recruiting for Sigma traits. This isn't theory, this is documented military history. Let's dive in. Reason 1. They operate independently without support. The first reason is fundamental. Sigma males don't need a team to function. In traditional warfare, soldiers operate in units. They depend on their squad for support, morale, communication, and survival. Remove the unit, and most soldiers become ineffective or psychologically collapse. The Sigma male soldier is different. He's been operating independently his entire life. He doesn't need the psychological support of a team. He doesn't need constant communication. He doesn't need orders every step of the way. Drop him behind enemy lines alone and he thrives. Give him a mission and minimal resources and he figures it out. Cut off his communication and he adapts. This is why Sigma males dominate in special forces, sniper units, and intelligence operations. These roles require extended periods of isolation, independent decision-making, and self-sufficiency. Historical example: Carlos Hathcock, legendary Marine sniper in Vietnam. He operated alone or with minimal support for days in enemy territory. His most famous mission involved crawling 1,500 yards through an open field over 3 days to take one shot. Complete solitude, complete focus, complete independence. This is Sigma warfare. One man, one mission. No support needed. Reason 2. They handle extreme isolation without psychological breakdown. The second reason: extreme isolation doesn't break them. Military psychologists have documented that isolation is one of the most psychologically damaging aspects of warfare. Soldiers cut off from their units, POWs in solitary confinement, deep cover agents operating alone, they often experience severe psychological trauma. Most soldiers are trained for teamwork and camaraderie. Remove that and they struggle mentally. The Sigma male is built for isolation. He's comfortable in his own mind. He doesn't need human interaction to maintain sanity. He can go weeks or months with minimal contact and remain psychologically stable. This makes him invaluable for missions requiring extended isolation, long-range reconnaissance, deep cover intelligence, covert operations in hostile territory. Historical example: Special Operations Executive Agents in World War II. These were operatives dropped alone into Nazi-occupied Europe. They lived among enemies for months or years, completely isolated from allies with no support structure. Most were lone wolves by nature, Sigma personalities who could maintain their cover and mission despite total isolation. The agents who succeeded were those comfortable with solitude. The ones who failed were those who needed connection and cracked under isolation. Reason 3. They make decisions without waiting for orders. The third reason: they think and act independently under pressure. Traditional military structure is hierarchical. Soldiers follow orders, they wait for commands, they execute plans made by superiors. This works for conventional warfare. It fails in unconventional situations where communication breaks down, situations change rapidly, or soldiers face scenarios their superiors didn't anticipate. The Sigma male soldier doesn't wait for orders. He assesses the situation, makes decisions, and acts. He trusts his own judgment over waiting for approval. This initiative is critical in special operations and asymmetric warfare, where missions rarely go according to plan. Military leadership has historically struggled with this trait because it challenges hierarchy. But they've also learned that their most effective operators are those who think independently. Historical example: Navy SEALs and other Special Forces units specifically select for this trait. They want operators who can complete the mission even when everything goes wrong, when communication fails, when the plan falls apart. Operation Red Wings in Afghanistan showed this. When Marcus Luttrell's team was compromised and communications failed, they had to make independent life-or-death decisions without orders. The ability to think independently under extreme pressure determined survival. Reason 4. They're immune to group pressure and propaganda. The fourth reason: they can't be psychologically manipulated through group dynamics. War involves psychological warfare, propaganda, peer pressure, group manipulation, breaking enemy morale through psychological operations. Traditional soldiers are vulnerable to this because they derive their identity from the group. Attack the group's morale and individual soldiers collapse. The Sigma male soldier is immune to group-based psychological warfare. His identity isn't tied to the group. He doesn't need the group for morale. He doesn't care about propaganda targeting unit cohesion. You can't break his spirit by breaking his unit's spirit because his spirit is independent. This makes Sigma males extremely effective in psychological operations and resistant to enemy psychological warfare. Historical example: resistance fighters in occupied territories during World War II. The most effective weren't those embedded in large networks. They were the lone operators who worked independently. The Gestapo could capture and break resistance cells, but they couldn't break operators who had no cell to betray. The Sigma operators maintained effectiveness even when their networks were destroyed because they never depended on those networks psychologically. Reason 5. They execute without moral hesitation. The fifth and darkest reason: they can make hard decisions without emotional interference. War requires difficult decisions. Decisions that haunt most people: taking a life, sacrificing teammates, completing missions despite moral complexity. Most soldiers struggle with these decisions emotionally. They need group support, chaplains, psychological counseling to process the moral weight. The Sigma male compartmentalizes. He separates the mission from his emotions. He makes the decision, executes it, and processes it later without it paralyzing him in the moment. This isn't sociopathy. It's emotional detachment under pressure, the ability to do what needs to be done without hesitation. This makes Sigma males essential for the most difficult military operations: assassinations, hostage situations with no good options, missions requiring sacrifice. Historical example: OSS and CIA operatives during the Cold War. These were individuals who executed morally complex operations alone, without support systems. They made impossible decisions in impossible situations and continued functioning. The ones who succeeded weren't those who didn't feel the weight. They were those who could feel it and still execute. That's the Sigma trait. Historical validation: why modern militaries select for Sigma traits. Here's the validation. Modern special forces specifically recruit for Sigma characteristics. Navy SEALs, Delta Force, SAS, Mossad. These elite units don't want traditional soldiers. They want independent operators who can function alone, think autonomously, handle isolation, resist psychological manipulation, and execute difficult missions without hesitation. They're selecting for Sigma males even if they don't call them that. The screening process is designed to filter out those who need teams and keep those who thrive alone. Hell Week isn't just about physical endurance, it's about psychological independence. They're looking for the guy who doesn't quit even when his entire team does, the one who remains focused in chaos, the one who thinks clearly under pressure, the one who doesn't need encouragement. That's the Sigma operator. So why do Sigma males make the best soldiers in war? Because they operate independently without support. Because they handle extreme isolation without psychological breakdown. Because they make decisions without waiting for orders. Because they're immune to group pressure and propaganda. And because they execute without moral hesitation. History has proven this repeatedly. The most effective operators in special forces, intelligence, and unconventional warfare have always been lone wolves. They're not better soldiers in conventional warfare. In traditional units, team players excel. But in modern warfare, which increasingly favors small unit operations, covert missions, and asymmetric tactics, the Sigma male is the ideal operator. Not every Sigma male is cut out for military service, but those who are become the most dangerous individuals on the battlefield. Because war, at its most brutal level, is often decided by individuals who can operate alone in impossible situations. And that's exactly what Sigma males were built for.